The 3-week Formula 1 summer break is the perfect time to conduct a mid-season review and to take stock of how the teams and drivers have performed this season. If you're wondering why the summer break exists, I highly recommend this excellent video by Ollie from TGS F1, which you can watch in the card above. This is part 3 of our mid-season review, featuring the two historical rivals locked in a battle for P3, Ferrari and McLaren. If you missed part 1, you can watch it by clicking the card above as well. And now, onto the video. First up, we have Ferrari. 2020 saw the Maranello-based team fall hard into the midfield. It was unquestionably the team's worst season in over 3 decades. The team fell from second in 2019 with 104 points, alongside 3 wins and 19 podiums, to just 6 with 131 points and 3 podiums, which was a big disappointment. Now, this wasn't entirely due to a bad car, but also due to a severely handicapped engine, the result of an FIA investigation in the winter of 2019. As such, when the FIA announced that the 2020 cars would carry over to 2021, many Ferrari fans, including myself, braced for the worst. Fortunately, as we all know, Ferrari's season had exceeded all expectations we had. Instead of being stuck in the midfield, Ferrari is actually fighting for third in the Constructors' Championship. Both the car and engine are huge leaps over their 2020 equivalents, with the car being capable of fighting for podiums on merit, while on the engine side, the power deficit has been reduced. Beyond the technical side of things, I think it's fair to say that the drivers have also played a role in this, with Charles Leclerc and new signing Carlos Sainz consistently putting out strong performances on track every weekend. Sainz in particular deserves praise for adapting to the SF21 quickly, allowing Ferrari to rack up double points finishes at several races. He has also made sure that the team has gone home with points when Leclerc is out of the race. As you can see from the past 6 years of results, Ferrari isn't back to strong form of the late 2010s. But 2021 is still a welcome improvement over 2020, and I do hope that Ferrari will be contending for championships once again in the new era of Formula 1. With that, I'll be giving Ferrari a 7.5 out of 10 for this year's efforts. Before I move on to the drivers, I will acknowledge that Ferrari have stopped further development on the SF21, which could potentially cause them third, especially since McLaren have continued to develop the MCL35M. Personally, I think it's the right decision from Ferrari, considering their sweeping rule changes for next year. Ferrari don't need to finish third, and I think that anyone at Ferrari should be satisfied with 4th for this season. The fact that they are even in a position to be fighting for third is something worth cheering about already, and the focus needs to be on winning in the new era of Formula 1. With that, onto the drivers, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. I think it's fair to say it's been a pretty close fight between the pair this year. For Saturday at least, the head-to-head really doesn't show how close they really are. But on Sunday, Leclerc does have a clear advantage over Sainz. However, I expect to see Sainz close up the gap in the second half, since he's adjusting to the characteristics of the Ferrari still. Now, I'll look at each driver specifically, starting off with Charles Leclerc. I think it's fair to say it's been a mixed season for Leclerc. There have been high points like their poles in Monaco and Azerbaijan, alongside leading most of the British Grand Prix. But there have also been some low points, like failing to start in Monaco due to undetected crash damage. Overall, his driving has been solid this season. The only time where he really made a mistake was in Monaco when he crashed in qualifying, leading to his pole and ultimately the DNS. So I will be giving him an 8 out of 10. On to Carlos Sainz Jr. I think he's been fantastic this season, and his performance in the first half has been really strong. He's done a good job at adapting himself to the Ferrari, scoring 2 podiums and consistently finishing in the points. Beyond that, he's also performed strongly on days when Leclerc was out of the races, scoring podiums and allowing Ferrari to minimize the impact of losing one car in his battle for third against McLaren. To top it off, Sainz has also kept his reputation as a smooth operator intact with 0 retirements this season. His season highlight is probably P2 in Monaco, where he held off his old teammate Lando Norris, or his fight back to P4 in Hungary from 15 on the grid that became P3 after Vettel's disqualification. All in all, there hasn't really been a low point for him this year. It's been pretty solid performances all around for him, so I'll give him 8 out of 10. With that, here are the final scores for Ferrari. 7.5 out of 10 for the team, 8 out of 10 for both drivers. Up next, we have McLaren. 2020 was the team's most successful season in over a decade, as the team finished third in the Constructors, its highest finishing position since the 2012 season. For 2021, the team is seeking to defend its third place, this time against its historical rival, Ferrari. As of the Hungarian Grand Prix, both teams are equal on points, but Ferrari is third in the standings on countback. Looking at the past 6 years of results, it's fair to say McLaren have come a long way since the disastrous Honda days in the middle part of the 2010s. Climbing from 9 in 2017, where scoring points was a struggle, to finishing third and scoring podiums in 2020. 2021 is the first time that the team has failed to move up the order, although the team has come closer to the top 2 teams, which if you ask me, simply highlights the performance disparity between the midfield and top teams. Regardless, McLaren should be proud of what they achieved in 2021, with Lando Norris scoring podiums on merit at Imola and in Austria. I would add that the team should be applauded for their work in the winter that allowed them to continue fighting at the front of the midfield. The Mercedes engine swap required extensive modifications to the rear of the MCL35, something its midfield rivals did need to do with their cars. Yet McLaren were the only team fighting for P3 last year. They remain in the hunt for this year, with Alpine and Aston Martin falling down the order. For that effort, I'll give the team a 7.5 out of 10. Before I move on to the drivers, I will acknowledge that McLaren have continued to develop the MCL35M despite its main rival Ferrari ceasing development early in June. I am not too sure why McLaren have done this, and I don't think it's a good idea. Owing to the big rule changes for next year, I really hope it doesn't affect the 2022 efforts, which it arguably should be focused on. And now, onto the drivers, Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo. Ahead of the season, I think nobody expected this result for the head-to-head. Norris was always expected to have an advantage over Ricciardo, but never to such an extreme extent, to the point where I can safely say that Norris has crushed Ricciardo in literally every aspect. Now, I will look at each driver specifically, starting off with Lando Norris. I think Norris has done a brilliant job this season and has definitely improved across the winter. He's been strong on both Saturday and Sunday, always reaching Q3, scoring points in every race up to Hungary. For Norris, the highlight of the season is definitely the Austrian Grand Prix weekend. He scored P2 in qualifying on merit and followed it up the next day with a starting drive to P3. As for the low point, there hasn't really been one for him this season, and if not for him being taken on Hungary, I think he realistically could have continued his point streak. With that, I'll be giving him 8.5 out of 10. Now, on to Daniel Ricciardo. It's been a really tough season for the Australian, who moved from what is now known as Alpine to McLaren. As I mentioned earlier, he's been crushed by his teammate in every possible way, with the season low point being in Monaco, where he was led by Norris. That said, there appears to be better days ahead. At the British Grand Prix, he was able to finish 5th, just one place behind Norris, and that was arguably his highest point of the season. Whether this is a one-off peak or a start of a much improved season remains to be seen after he hit on the opening lap of the Hungarian Grand Prix, which compromised his race. With that, I'll give Ricciardo a 6 out of 10. And to end off, here are the scores for McLaren and its drivers. 7.5 out of 10 for the team, 8.5 out of 10 for Norris, and 6 out of 10 for Ricciardo. With that, thank you for watching this video. To tell me what you think of my opinions, was I being too generous with some drivers or teams, or was I being too harsh on them? If you like this video, do drop a like, subscribe, and I'll see you for part 4.